Question about Robin Williams, who died this week. And, if you had known him, if you'd been his friend, what might you have said to him or to anyone suffering from depression, substance abuse, suicidal tendencies, and even early stage Parkinson's? What might you have said to him or such a person that could have made a difference?
Actually, you mentioned that I work on an algorithm, which is a systematic procedure. So I might treat each of those different cases that you mentioned a little bit differently. Uh, but I think if you want me to sort of answer in the most general way, um, I would say that I would tell a person who is in so much distress that they don't want to live anymore that there's two kinds of dying. Um, and it's understandable that when life gets very uncomfortable, our thoughts turn to ending it. So there's two kinds of ending it, two kinds of dying. There's the physical dying, which, if possible, we should avoid. And then there's another kind of dying, which is the dying of the suffering self, which allows us to remain physically alive and functional, vibrant, happy, actually, um, even if the source of the discomfort that was driving us to suicide doesn't go away, even if you still have Parkinsonism uh, or whatever else the life situation is. Uh, if the suffering self dies, then you've solved the problem. So there's sort of what might be called physical suicide, which in general is to be avoided if at all possible. And then there's what might be called spiritual suicide, which doesn't mean killing your spiritual life, but rather killing that which gets in the way of your spiritual life. And I counsel people. I mean, it's who I long ago stopped counting in terms of the number of people that have come to me saying, I want to commit suicide. Do you think it's okay? I mean, that just, I've had a long career and that kind of thing has come up a lot. And this is what I tell them. I say I can't really comment on, I can't tell you kill yourself or don't kill yourself, but I can tell you there is an alternative. It requires a lot of work. I am sure it is incomparably better than suicide. Here's how we do it. Here's what you have to invest in terms of time and energy. And that deep desire for it to be over, for the misery to end, can be realized. So there's sort of, two radical solutions when life becomes untenable. The physical radical solution and the spiritual radical solution. So I counsel for the spiritual radical solution, explain to them what's needed, what their probabilities of success are, and so forth. I should also say, however, depression is a special deal, okay? If someone is depressed, the very first thing I do if they come to me is determine whether they're in contact with a competent healthcare professional. I don't know what was the situation in his case. I haven't really, been following the story. But my first job, if they have a clinical situation, is to make sure they're getting competent medical treatment. And as I'm sure everyone knows at this point, maybe because of the notoriety of this story, depression is one of the biggest killer diseases on the planet, and even if it means, people will sometimes say, "Well, should I take meds or whatever?" And it's like, better talk to a health professional, and do what it takes not to have to kill yourself. I had one case where a woman was severely, severely depressed. and they tried everything. They tried all the medications, whatever. And I actually suggested, okay, she sounds so depressed, so desperate. Why don't you look into electroconvulsive? Okay, it's like, whoa, that's way over the top. But look into it. Please think about it. 6 months later, I get a letter from her. You don't know, but you saved my life. Yeah. I absolutely killed myself. So first thing, that's why I say I handle the cases a little bit differently. If it's depression, that's a medical thing. And I want to make sure that I'm part of a team that involves a competent healthcare professional.
Carrie Fisher gets that electroconvulsive thing on a fairly regular basis. You know, the actress who played Princess Leia in Star Wars. And it seems to help her in her case. Well, I know when I was 18, I was a fairly troubled kid, and I had a realization at that stage. That was also the age at which I learned to meditate. But I had a realization that, you know, there's only one way out, and that's up.
Or in, or down.
Or in, yeah, to put it that way.
Pick your vector. But
yeah, but you can't blot out your life because it continues regardless of what you do, and you're only going to make it worse. And at least according to now, you know, over years of study, all the scriptures say you're only going to make it worse. You need to sort of, you know, evolve spiritually, and then things are going to get better.
Yeah, so I guess the upshot is, for people that are desperate, I would say use that desperation to fuel a radical, intense liberation practice.
Yeah.
That would be the soundbite.
What would you say to somebody who is like suffering terribly of a terminal illness? Would you condone euthanasia? Or just no opinion, kind of?
I don't have a strong opinion on that. But once again, I tend to look upon dying, even the physically and emotionally painful parts of dying, as a natural process. And before you do that, there is a lot that you can do to train consciousness to experience physical and emotional distress more as a purification, less as a problem. You'll either be able to do that or not. If it gets too extreme, then okay, well, that's a different issue. I don't really have an opinion.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to start the interview on a morbid tone, but you know,
why not?
Right.
I mean, Buddhism is like the biggest downer of it all. It's like, guess what? You are a soulless robot designed to suffer and too stupid to know that fact. I mean, the Four Noble Truths are incredibly powerful and liberating, but there is a sort of downer take on it that we sometimes hear. So, hey,